raised about 220 crores across many rounds. We were third most downloaded app, but for 5 years continuously, Doubtnet was the topmost app on Play Store.
So being from an entrepreneurial family of IITians, did that influence your decision?
We used to feel that, job thodi koi karta hai.
What's the most important thing in building $1 million business?
Just doing everything right and taking the right decisions and just compounding on what you are doing.
So a lot of the viewers are young girls who are trying to figure out their career path. So what helped you figure it out?
Success is not going to be certain. If you do the right thing, you will get to the final outcome. If I were a 17-year-old today, I think I would have definitely
Hi everyone and welcome back to She Means Business. I'm your host Kimaya Jhala Gulati, a 17-year-old student in New Delhi, and I started this podcast to explore the stories of inspiring women who are shaping industries, leading change, and showing us what it really takes to build a meaningful career. Today I'm absolutely thrilled to be speaking with Ms. Tanushree Nagori. She co-founded and now has exited Doubtnet, one of India's most impactful ed-tech platforms. After graduating from IIT Delhi, she chose a bold path to solve one of the most frustrating problems for millions of students, getting their doubts cleared. What started as a simple experiment in tutoring has now grown into a powerful app that helps students, especially from non-urban and Hindi-speaking regions, access quality education using just their phone. Ms. Tanushree, welcome to She Means Business, and I'm so excited to dive into your journey.
Thank you for having me here.
Of course. And when you were 16 or 17, did you imagine yourself as an entrepreneur?
So, when I was 16 or 17, even before that, one of the big things that I always imagined myself doing is achieving something really, really big. And at that point, there were 2-3 things that could be big, but for some reason, my friends even today tease me because I wanted to be something what the Ambanis are. Yeah. Of course, at that young age, sometimes everything seems possible, and I'm glad that that was the sort of aspiration we had. But as I was growing to 16, 17, I think I felt that maybe the path to doing anything big was to maybe study, because at that point those were the only paths. So I was clearly only thinking about getting to IIT at that point. Yeah. But before that, I would say that that was the ambition.
Mm-hmm. Lovely. And how did it feel when your app became the third most downloaded in India?
Oh, it was it was a really, really awesome feeling, especially because I think you see different steps to it, right? You get the version 1 out, and in the beginning you think that it is only about maybe you'll just spend some marketing money and people will download, and in the version 1 you realize that version 0.1, I would say, how much ever budget you want to put in, nobody is ever going to download. And then when you basically start getting to the right version of the product, and you start people using the product, and in our case people using the product from really remote areas, especially at the time when even Geo was not there, meaning it was not people had a lot of free data to use. It felt so nice. And when it became even the third, we were third most downloaded app, but for 5 years continuously, Doubtnet was the topmost app on Play Store for 5 years. So that was a wonderful feeling, and also to hear the stories of the students on how it was helping them during COVID times, before COVID times. It was so good. It was so good.
And how important do you think it is for young girls to dream bigger?
Oh, it is so important. I feel so lucky that in my case, in our household, we were never made to feel very different between a boy and a girl or anything. But as I see, a lot of times there is a little bit of differentiation. Sometimes it is malintent, but sometimes it is also that a lot of our households feel that girls have a different type of role to play. They may spend a lot of money on the girls, especially in cities like Gurgaon, Delhi, where a lot of us come from privileged households. What I see is that I was actually running a tutoring center also for very privileged kids. We were a very high ASP tutoring center. I would see that between a boy and a girl, the parents would spend on girls on different things. They would probably spend on designer wear, spend on sending them to ballet class, or a very different type of expenditure versus a boy, where they would basically spend on making sure that they are ambitious towards career and all of that. So I think that needs to be really harnessed, because that makes a huge difference.
Yeah. So before we get into the deeper questions, could you please share a short introduction about yourself?
Sure. So I am Tanushree Nagori. The most recent introduction for me is that I co-founded Doubtnet and we have recently exited it. Before that, I spent like my first 7-8 years, formative years in Bokaro, which actually set the base for for my mathematical bent of mine. And then I studied in DPS and then went to IIT. For the first 2 years of life, I was in analytics and consulting. Very quickly, we realized that we really wanted to do something which was at the forefront, and because analytics and consulting is consulting finally, you're like you're advising, you're not even doing the main work.
Yeah.
And it did not feel that it was as impactful as doing your own work would be. So very quickly we got into our own coaching institute, and then basically developed this app which had a huge impact and has it even today. Right now we are starting up again. It is still not fully public. So yeah, that's where we are.
So what inspired you from taking a leap from a secure like IIT academic background into something uncertain like starting a company?
So I mean, the good thing is that we did not think it was uncertain. So we always thought that of course there'll be hardships, or there'll be maybe 1 month you will have salary and the other month you won't. But it never felt like success is not going to be certain.
Yeah.
We always, and even right now what it feels is that if you do the right thing, you will get to the final outcome. In terms of I think I kind of touched upon it, because when we were working in consulting, I think I felt that there is a limited scope of work that you have. And also, if I were to just talk about personal ambition, the growth is slower than what you expect it to be. And then the third, I think, because in a lot of cases in our times, and I'm talking about 2007, 2008, the next logical path to your career would have been to go to the US and settle there. And that was something that I was very clear that we didn't want to do. So basically, I think all of these three combined, we were like, this is the time, 2 years after college, that this is the time we start basically figuring an entrepreneurial path out. And then get to where we get.
So did anyone ever question your decisions?
So again, I think they may have questioned, but we always felt that they, a lot of our family, I know you were yourself a 17-year-old, so I don't know whether I should be saying this, but I always felt that like we are adults now, they shouldn't have any role to play in what we decide to do. So basically, nobody ever felt that they were in the place to basically advise us on what to do. And so we were teaching a lot of 17-year-olds in our coaching institute, and I think a lot of parents, while they trusted us, they also felt that we would probably, and I think now they really value it, is because I think there has to be a lot of independent thinking that the kids have at this age, and sometimes parents do not have the context. Like they can never think about what success is in our context or in your context or in the kids' context, and what is their ambition. And what is it that, like, life is short. Like even if it is a 90-year-old life, it is short, it is finite. So it is not only about achieving certain milestones as per a particular path, right? Like you also want to enjoy what you're doing. So
So many students from tier 2 and tier 3 countries like lack resources and have language barriers. So how did you realize that it was such a core issue, and like how did that become your focus?
So I think this is a lot of people feel that we only created the product for tier 2, tier 3 students. We actually believe that we created this product for everybody. Now if you look at India, only 15% students stay in tier 1, or 15% of our population is in tier 1. So 85% of country's population is in tier 2 and beyond. Right? So if there is a product that is a mass product, by virtue of just this split or this distribution of population, 85% of that usage is always going to come from tier 2, tier 3. The good thing is that we developed a product that wasn't like, only appealing to tier 1. So like every kid, whether they were going to DPS in Delhi or they were going to a government school in UP, thankfully it could appeal to everybody, and there is a lot of hard work that has gone to make it like that.
So being from an entrepreneurial family of IITians, like, did that influence your decision into going into that in your initial years?
So I think I am a Marwari, So clearly a lot of us have seen business, and we always felt that like that is one path that you can follow. Like, you know, I have had some college friends who I realized later basically believed that business is not something that educated people do. So that's when I realized that that's also a thought process. So for us, it was the other way around. Honestly, we used to feel that, you know, job थोड़ी कोई करता है. Like, you basically, only after we went to IIT is when I realized that, you know, so many people go into good jobs. So basically that was a good path. But in terms of influencing, I wouldn't say that it had a very strong influence. It was just that, you know, there wasn't, like, you know, I mean, people weren't questioning that suddenly you were, you know, you basically had such a cushioned good job and you were thinking of starting up. So I think, you know, that there was some acknowledgement from some parts of the family at least.
So how did Doubtnet change from like its first version to now?
So you know, we were running a coaching institute for almost 6 years when we started ideating on Doubtnet, and there were multiple products that we were ideating on, but Doubtnet was more like an internal tool that we had created for our own students. So basically what we knew that when they are coming to us at the coaching institute, a lot of students are coming to us to solve their doubts only. So we basically created, उस समय एक surface आता था, there was the surface and there was this note. So we used to just, you know, annotate in the note and send them the answer, instead of using the precious class time to do that. People could send it on WhatsApp and we could annotate. Then the surface came along, we started making some videos ourselves and sending it, and then we realized that one video could be used multiple times because everybody has the same doubts, the same textbooks are being used, right? So we could use the same video multiple times. So there's, you know, efficient use of resources. Then we were like, okay, maybe these students understand us, therefore they are able to understand our videos. But let's say if it is a student in some other school in some other village or another city, will they be able to understand? So we did a POC in a couple of cities, actually cities or villages, Mahendragarh and Jhunjhunu. We saw that there was a good uptake. Actually for 4 nights, Aditya and I couldn't sleep because we were getting 80 to 100 questions a day, and that was pre-Geo. So then we were like, okay, I mean, if we open this barrage of asking doubts, then we are going to get infinite doubts. So then there has to be a tech enablement over here, because you can't, like, you know, get a question and then solve it. So basically we said we had to make a repository of videos, and we also need to have tech to be able to identify the question as soon as it comes, to be able to match it with the video that we have. So those were the 2 pillars identified. And so for from the first version, where basically students could just upload the picture of the question and then wait for somebody to solve and get a video, to where students would click the picture and get a video solution automatically. So that, like, you know, that was the journey that we had. And again, in that journey, there were people who were basically questioning on why we are looking at building such hard tech, you know, why just have an army of people. But we were like, you know, let's just go ahead with that.
So you've raised 23 crores and built a team. So what's been the most difficult part?
Actually, we have raised 220 crores.
Wow.
So we've raised about 220 crores across many rounds. Yeah, so again, I think on this also I would say that thankfully I have not had to face anything different as a woman founder. And in fact, I was the one who was primarily doing the part of raising money also. And I don't, you know, while everybody says that there is a lot of pro culture, etc., I don't think it was difficult. I think, you know, what happens is that, and somebody had told us right at the beginning, that if you are doing well as a company, then anyways everything is working well for you. I think there was one point where I was a little scared about revealing an information, which is when around the time we were raising our pre-series A. So we raised a pre-series A in March of 2019, and December of 2018 or January of 2019 is when I realized that I've conceived my second child. And at that point, because that pre-series A was very important for us, I didn't know what to tell, whether to tell our investors or whether not to tell the incoming investors, blah blah blah, all of that. And even then, like, you know, I think once we had raised it, I was like, once we maybe signed the term sheet, I kind of called up a couple of investors and I basically told them, and they were like, you know, why are you sounding so apologetic about it? Like, you know, it's a 10-15 year journey, you can't like stop your life for it. So that was just very nice to hear. But then also, it also meant that they also trusted you and there was a lot of responsibility. So while I'm not saying that everybody should do this, but like for example, my daughter was born on 31st July 2019, and I was like, the 6th day, like I kind of lied to my parents and went for a couple of investor meetings. Like I told them I'm going for a doctor appointment, and I went for a couple of, like, the day of Chhati. And then had a trip to China like that same month, because again, matlab, it's your own company, it's not like anybody else is asking you to do this.
Yeah.
So I think it's a two-way thing where if you are doing your own thing, nobody ever thinks that you are at a disadvantage because you are a woman or a girl.
And what's the most important thing in building $1 million business?
Yeah, I think like just doing everything right and taking the right decisions, and like just compounding on what you are doing. I think compounding is a really big thing, and you need to kind of keep I think everything has to come together. Everything has to come together. It's not like just one thing. Basically, especially a lot of times when we build tech businesses in India, sometimes we feel that you build the tech, you build the product, people are using it, and that's about it. But then you have to build a business also out of it. So you need that sort of acumen also. So you have to like every day you have to be better than the previous day, and like just continue going.
So a lot of the viewers are young girls who are trying to figure out their career paths. So what helped you figure it out?
So it's again, it's not one thing that helped me figure out, but I think what is very important, and we all can take a lot of advantage of it, is to work very hard in the early years. And when I say work very hard, like do a lot of things. Like there are so many vacations that we have, there are so many holidays that we have. Like if we can use a lot of those to do a lot of internships. It's surprising and it's funny, and now that I'm a 41-year-old, I realize that a lot of things that we have done in the past, which at that point seemed meaningless, actually are helpful today. So for example, I interned in a factory in 2004, and because it was a factory, and now until now, even in a tech job, it always felt that it was like, okay, it was good, but it wasn't, it didn't add to what we are doing. But now the product that we are building right now, whatever little experience I had from those 2-month internship is actually coming very handy. So like trying out a lot of things and working during the vacations, etc., like really helps you open up your canvas of the things that you are exposed to. And with I think I keep saying this because my kids are also going to be privileged, and all of some of the viewers are also going to be privileged. We should use this privilege to an advantage. A lot of people feel that because we are coming from privileged household, we don't have that fire, and therefore we will not, or the kids will not do as well. On the contrary, it should be an advantage that the parents can expose us to so much, and we don't need to, like in the early days, we don't need to provide for them and all of that. We can like really take risks and move forward.
Do you believe in luck?
Of course, luck also is very important, but I think also I believe, because we are all exposed to so many people who have had successes multiple times, and multiple times success doesn't happen because of luck. So I think what happens is that as you keep working hard, you keep turning the luck in your favor, because luck, bad luck or good luck can't be there forever, right?
Yeah.
So it's basically you're working, there's probably a luck opportunity, and because you're working at the right time, you'd basically be able to reap the benefits of it.
Yeah. So what would
it's like the opportunity right now, for example, there's so much opportunity in AI, but people who have been building for so many years will suddenly be able to have a good luck at this time.
So what would you say to girls who think that they're not good at tech, or like they're not business minded?
I don't think at 16 or 17 anybody could say that they are not good at anything. Because there is no, it's just you're just 16 or 17, or maybe you're like just 8-10 years into your, when you started doing anything. So you can like always build whatever skill set you would like to build. But I would like, maybe because I have a bias, and I have a bias towards STEM tech right now. And I do feel that everybody should upskill themselves on that aspect of life, at least as of what stands today. Like logical thinking, STEM, tech, all of that is going to be very important. So if you do feel that you lack it, maybe it is the time to upskill yourself on that side.
How do you stay motivated when things aren't working out?
So I think the only way to, so there have been hard times. I would say that it is demotivating also, but because there is no way you can give up. So you just keep going every day, and you feel that, you keep working as hard as you can to turn things around, and then hopefully things do turn around, and sometimes things fail.
Yeah. So what's the simplest way a 17-year-old can start working on a startup idea?
I mean, like if there is something that you already, like, I think things are far simpler today, by the way, with all the AI ML. If you have a POC that you need to do, you can like actually just, like, people are being able to develop apps in a day. So there are things that you can do right away. But I think, it's not like it's not something that should only be done for a CV. Like that is very different from something that you are actually wanting to do for a long term. Like, any business or any enterprise is a very long term thing.
Yeah.
So you should get into it, like, evaluate what you are planning to do. Maybe not like fully bake it, because things are going to change on the way. So have some starting point, and then start researching it, talking to people about it, making an MVP. I think MVP is a thing that is very important, because a lot of us don't understand that final product could be very different from what you have thought. So it is very important for you to make an MVP and test it out, if it's a tech thing, or even if it's a, we were just talking about like, again, to somebody who's not a 17-year-old but a 40-year-old, about, there were 5-6 business ideas that they have. What do they do? Like, just launch MVP for 4-5 of them. In fact, have a payment page also on it, because you will then realize that there are some people who are willing to pay for something that, if there was a product like it.
Yeah.
So, like, do a lot of test controls and a lot of that, and then get to the final idea.
So if you were a 17-year-old again living in India, what are things that you would explore or do that you didn't do when you were?
Yeah, I think things have changed dramatically. So are we saying 17-year-old today, or are we saying 17-year-old when I was
17-year-old like today in India now?
So then I think there were so many things that didn't even exist. So I mean, if I were a 17-year-old today, I think I would have definitely made sure that while I was then also inclined towards, but I think make sure that like, at least on the tech side, I'm fully fully armed. Like, I shouldn't have to rely on a techie or a tech co-founder or a engineer to be able to build something that I want to. Like, of course you'll build a team, but to begin with, if it's something that you have in yourself, it's much easier in today's world.
So how do you see the future of learning in India over the next 5-10 years? What excites you about it?
Yeah, I think India moves very slow as far as future of learning is concerned. I think the edtechs did some good job, and I'm not talking about ourselves, maybe like in the Physics Wala or some other companies also. So there have been some good job that has been done, because of which people in smaller places are also at least getting access to some good teachers, because otherwise the teachers that they have access to are pathetic. So there is something that has happened from an edtech side, but I think school education is not going to change for a very long time. It changes very slowly. I think given the fruits are lesser for people to build in this sector, I don't know how things are going to change. Because see, the thing is that most of the education spend is coming from the government. So unless government wants things to change, I think there have been too many edtech entrepreneurs and nothing has really succeeded. Maybe Physics Wala is succeeding, but nothing has really succeeded commercially very well. So, and the reason for that is, I think the pockets are not very deep as far as large part of the population is concerned, because they're already paying in the schools. They don't have too much left to pay outside. So it has to either come from the schools, and the schools are mostly governed by the government. So it's I don't think things are changing too soon.
And what kind of people do you enjoy working with or hiring? Like, what qualities do you look for?
So I've arrived at these qualities by looking at who have been the best people we've been able to work with, and at that point we were not evaluating them necessarily on those qualities. So I think people who are very honest, like, I think that is, and when I say honest, it's you can figure it out. Like, people are not being people are not don't have a charade about what they know, what they don't know, and also like they're honest about the company also. Like, you know, the company changes, especially startups change multiple paths, but they really want the company to succeed. So they take on whatever role that they want. They need the company, I mean, the company needs them to do.
Yeah.
So I think honest and integrity, of course, skill set to hai, it's a given that you have to be skilled in what you are doing.
Yeah.
But honesty and integrity is like I mean, more than even integrity, I would say honesty, like really high on that. And then I think maybe because we work long hours, there is a lot of debate around that. I don't know how to answer that, but I think people who are willing to work long hours, because sometimes there are hard problems to solve and you can't solve them by 8 p.m.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to go till 2 a.m. Then you can't, like, you know, just say a pause, okay, we'll do it tomorrow. I mean, sometimes it doesn't work like that. And therefore, you know, people who are willing to put in long hours.
Yeah. Do you think AI is going to hurt or benefit education in India?
You know, like I said, right now I am not seeing too much in India, changing in education in India right now. So AI in education, I am not being able to envisage, because I mean, somebody needs to do it for it to work. So ideally it should benefit, it can't hurt. Ideally it should benefit, but to what extent is something that is to be, like, you know, I think on my fellow friend group from IIT, I was basically saying that, you know, especially after, you know, how I'm seeing people code in the office right now, that all of our kids, I'm talking about my kids right now, all of our kids who are 10, 11-year-olds should know how to use LLMs, GPT, OpenAI very effectively. Like, everything can be done there. Like, even like, but then wait, the people who are questioning, then people are going to become lazy. But then I was like, you know, I mean, give them harder problems to solve. Like, assuming it's like, you know, when we were in college, we used to have open book tests. So open book tests were tougher because you already had the book, but the problem is going to be hard enough for you to have an open book there.
Yeah.
Same. So give them harder problems. So I think the onus on the educational institutions should be to change the assignment structure. Like, you can't have you can't have them write an essay now around.
Yeah.
अगर तुम घर पे essay दोगे तो of course they are going to, like, you know, they're going to use the GPT and deliver it, right? There has to be something more evolved than that. But will the Indian education institutions be able to change? I really doubt it. I mean, given what we have been seeing over the last 10-15 years.
Yeah, yeah. So lastly, if there's one message you want every young girl watching to take away from this, what would that be?
So yeah, I think my biggest message for every girl specifically is that, you know, I think we, like, all of you should look at the women role models that you have around you. Of course, look at all the men role models, but then you should never feel that you are basically restricted by the fact that you are a female. And, you know, a lot of times our parents, even though we may have achieved, they will, you know, there will be this one line they may end up saying that नहीं थोड़ा तो girls के लिए different होता है, you know, बच्चे तो होते ही हैं, and, you know, शादी के बाद थोड़ा different होता है, and all of that. Like, you know, I know that a lot of you may not be thinking about it like this, but there will be some instances of this coming your way at different points in time, and therefore you may feel that, you know, there is an upper limit to what you can do, at least staying in India. I can assure you that there is no upper limit, especially because of the kind of help we have, both from the parent side and from the help side. You can do whatever you want. Like, there is, I mean, yesterday also I was speaking to one of my friends, and she was saying that, you know, in a few consulting firms, like, there is, at the top level, there are very few female partners even now, but there are.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't look at the averages and kind of try and restrict ourselves.
So thank you so much, Ms. Tanushree. This has been really insightful and your journey is incredible. Thank you for being with me today. And to everyone listening, if you've been inspired by this episode, then make sure to share it with a friend. And always remember, she means business and so do you. Thank you.